Captain Salvo's inquiry echoed through the war room, sharp and direct. Is it true that humans can survive in space without helmets? His question hung in the air, met with a chorus of bewildered clicks and trills from the other commanders. The Zonian fleet was gathered in quiet contemplation, but Admiral Thorne, the eldest and most seasoned of them all, couldn't hide his frustration. His mandibles clicked in exasperation. Of course not, Captain. That is just another of their wild, misleading tales. Thorne's tentacle twitched irritably as he continued, the weight of decades of experience in his voice. But there is no denying their capacity for survival and unpredictability. That is what makes them such a formidable enemy. The Zonian, an advanced and peaceful species, had been locked in a relentless war with humanity for over a decade. The conflict had begun over resources, but escalated rapidly, driven by the humans' aggressive expansion across the galaxy. The Zonian had hoped for a diplomatic resolution, but humanity's response had been brutal, unyielding, and swift. Thorne activated the holographic display at the center of the room, and a new set of intelligence reports filled the air. A map of contested territories came to life with looming images of human battleships, crude yet intimidating, pushing further into Zonian space. Thorne's voice was steady, but heavy with the experience of years spent fighting these unpredictable foes. Intelligence reports indicate the humans have developed a new type of explosive device, he said, his eyes narrowing. One that can bypass our most advanced shields. This is a clear sign that they are willing to sacrifice everything, even their own lives, to secure victory. General Vexer, young and ambitious, leaned forward, his curiosity evident. But why? What drives them to such extremes? They seem to have no regard for their own well-being. Are they truly that desperate? Thorne paused for a moment, his voice dark and measured as he spoke from the depths of his knowledge. It is not desperation, General. It is their nature. Humans have a propensity for violence and chaos that we cannot comprehend. They thrive in conditions that would break other species. They are a force of nature, relentless and unpredictable. The room fell silent as the commanders absorbed Thorne's words. The Zonian, who valued logic, harmony, and order, found the human approach to war baffling. To fight an enemy who seemed to value nothing more than destruction was a nightmare scenario. Thorne's final words were heavy with the burden of his years of experience. We must adapt to their madness. Only then can we hope to survive. Meanwhile, on board the UNS Havoc, Captain Marcus Steele surveyed the battlefield with a grim smile. The Zonian were disciplined and predictable, traits that played right into his hands. His crew, a motley collection of seasoned veterans and eager recruits, waited for his orders with palpable anticipation. Status report, Steele barked, his voice sharp and commanding. Shields at full capacity. Weapons systems primed and ready. Lieutenant Briggs replied, his fingers dancing over the controls. The Zonian are massing their forces near the Carrick Nebula. Looks like they're planning another defensive stand. Steele chuckled darkly. Good. That's exactly what we want. Prepare the fighters for a full assault. As the crew scrambled to execute his commands, Steele took a moment to reflect on the nature of the war. The Zonian were undoubtedly a superior species, more advanced, more cultured, and more rational. But they lacked the one thing humanity had in abundance: sheer, unbridled tenacity. Humans were survivors, forged in the crucible of a harsh and unforgiving universe. They had clawed their way from the dirt through countless wars and disasters to become masters of their destiny. And they would not be stopped by a species that refused to understand the fundamental nature of conflict. Launch all fighters, Steele ordered, his voice cold with resolve. We're going to show these aliens just how insane we can be. As the Zonian Defense Fleet, a sleek array of silver ships, stood poised at the edge of the Carrick Nebula, Admiral Thorne watched with growing concern. The human fighters swarmed from their carriers like angry hornets, their trajectories erratic and unpredictable. Here they come, Thorne muttered, his voice laced with frustration. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. The human fighters darted through the Zonian formation, their pilots executing maneuvers that defied logic and physics. Thorn marveled at their audacity and their willingness to push their machines and themselves to the brink of destruction. Then, with a deafening roar, the human flagship, the Havoc, surged forward, weapons blazing. The Zonian ships returned fire, but the Havoc pressed on, its shields absorbing the punishment. Steel, visible on the bridge, seemed to revel in the chaos, directing his crew with manic intensity. "Admiral, they're closing in on our command ship," one of Thorn's officers exclaimed. Thorn's mandibles clenched tightly as the reality of the situation set in. "All ships, focus fire on the Havoc. We must not let them break our lines." But it was too late. The Havoc plowed through the Zonian defenses, its guns tearing through the command ship's hull. Explosions rippled across the Zonian fleet as the human fighters pressed their advantage, exploiting every weakness with ruthless efficiency. Thorn watched in horror as his fleet disintegrated around him. The humans were relentless, no regard for their own lives, only a singular, terrifying goal: victory. "Are they mad?" Thorn whispered, his voice filled with both awe and terror. "Are they truly willing to die for this?" As the command ship's systems failed and the bridge was engulfed in flames, Thorn realized the terrifying truth. The humans were not just warriors. They were something far more dangerous. They had embraced the madness of war and, in doing so, had become unstoppable. On board the Havoc, Steele watched the Zonian fleet burn with grim satisfaction. The battle had been costly, but the victory was theirs. "We did it, Captain," Lieutenant Briggs said, his voice tinged with awe. "We actually did it." Steele nodded, his face hardening with resolve. "This is just the beginning." He paused, eyes flashing with determination. "The Zonian think we're insane, and maybe they're right. But that's what makes us dangerous. They'll never understand what we're capable of." As the Havoc turned to rejoin the fleet, Steele allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. The war was far from over, and the path ahead would be fraught with peril. But in the madness of conflict, he had found a kind of clarity, a purpose that drove him forward. "Set course for the next target," Steele ordered, his voice low and unwavering. "Let's show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity." The Havoc's engines roared to life, propelling the ship into the vast expanse of space. For Steele and his crew, the war was not just a battle for survival. It was a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity, a spirit that refused to be broken, no matter the cost. The Havoc returned to the fleet's temporary base, hidden within the dense asteroid belt. Captain Steele gathered his senior officers for a final strategy meeting. The destruction of the Zonian supply hub had bought them some time, but the reprisal would be swift and brutal. "They'll be coming for us with everything they have," Steele said, his voice steady but grave. "We've poked the hornet's nest, and now we need to be ready for the swarm." Commander Harris, who had led the strike team to the supply hub, leaned forward. "We need to take the fight to them, Captain. Another bold strike. Something they won't expect." Steele nodded. "Agreed. But this time, we go for the heart. We take out their command center." The room fell silent. The Zonian command center was a heavily fortified station deep within their territory. An assault on it would be a suicide mission, but Steele's eyes burned with fierce determination. "We have to hit them where it hurts the most," Steele continued. "It's our only chance to end this war on our terms. If we succeed, we can cripple their command structure and force them to negotiate." Lieutenant Briggs spoke up, cautious as ever. "Captain, we need to get past their entire fleet. Even with a decoy, it's a long shot." Steele smiled grimly. "That's why we won't use a decoy. We'll go in full force. Hit them with everything we've got. They won't expect us to be that bold, that reckless." The officers exchanged uneasy glances, but there was a spark of hope in their eyes. Steele's plan was madness, but it was the kind of madness that had led them to victory time and again. "Prepare the fleet," Steele ordered. "We're going to end this one way or another."